The most exciting news I received yesterday is that the Anambra State government has awarded the construction and the dualization of the 33 Nsugbe Road. As a matter of fact, the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, visited that axis, the 33 junction axis, sometime late last year. And according to reports, the moment he got there, Mr. Governor said, God, these people are suffering. Because if you live around there, you'd believe me that, you'd agree with me that people around there are suffering. From the numerous potholes to the fact that the roads are supposed to be a lot larger and wider than they are. And then to the, would I call it invasion and the slim fitting of that road by traders and business activities. And so it's really, really, would I say, lightened my day yesterday. It kind of made my day extra beautiful yesterday when I saw the report that road has actually been awarded. And so work is expected to begin there as soon as possible. Also, the Anambra State government has established a committee to determine the best way to give Nnewi a further facelift in line with the ongoing urban regeneration policy of the Soludo administration. Also, the council mandated the Ministry of Environment and Operation Clean and Healthy Anambra, also known as Ocha Brigade, to commence enforcement of standards for road setbacks on the newly constructed dual carriageways. These standards have been set at 1.5 meters for built-up areas and 3 meters for other areas. These form part of the press release that was given yesterday by the Commissioner for Information, Dr. Lomefo, following the Anambra State Executive Council meeting. And of course, these form part of the conversation today, and the polity is heating up, and Anambrarians are excited. This is something that many of us have prayed for quite some time now. Also, yesterday, among our emerging security updates, we had the Public Relations Officer of the Police Force, Nigeria, by the way, Benjamin Hundeyin, extensively, glowingly speaking about the gains the force has made in recent times. And of course, we are learning that the police, with other security formations, it was a joint security operation, rescued 309 hostages and killed 555 terrorists in Kogi and Kwara. According to Hundeyin, they were the ones who refused to surrender. We are also learning that United States have delivered military supplies to Nigeria, even in the middle of all of the, would I call it, security issues we're having. For instance, in Sokoto State, Bello Tuji has issued new threats and people are fleeing their homes. Also, herders have killed an ex-councillor and 4 other persons in a midnight attack on a Benue community. Today, we are also going to be taking a look at projections on the economic life of the Southeast, given the impact of the mandate sit at home, which started in August 2021, but 4 years and a few months down the line, we are still held on a chokehold by this, I don't know what to call it now, especially since last year we had a conclusion, so to say, on the case of Nnamdi Kanu, who was the center of the entire development from the start. Now we get to see how this is going to be managed, to see if the Southeast would actually actualize the projected revenue from the region, given that the sit-at-home sets us back gravely economically. I am Chisom Chinedu. Good morning to you. Welcome to the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. I am joined by Dr. Tony Olisambeki on the analysis desk. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Chisom Chinedu. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, the Anambra. Good morning, the Onitsha Donido. Good morning, in Dosumo. Good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. It's a very beautiful Wednesday morning. And tonight, Nigeria Super Eagles will be going head-to-head with the Moroccans, the hosts. And the match, many Nigerians have turned up for Super Eagles after their performances. Before now, many have given up for the football, but they have really reconsidered Super Eagles because of the level or because of where they are currently. So the match will be tonight by 9 p.m. And also, for those who are supporting us now, they'll be going on with their own match at the same time. Just we saw what Man City did yesterday to Newcastle at their own park. But the most important thing, we are not talking about football. These are two major things that are going to happen tonight. But on the other side of it, because these ones, I call them side attractions. They are not the real things. They are side attractions because they don't determine how well we live, our well-being, our security. And what we do here, strictly talk about our well-being. And well-being supersedes everything, even supersedes leisure, pleasure, but they are part of well-being as well. But you must get one first before you get the order. So you are welcome, and then thank everyone. Also, God Almighty has been on our side, and He has been showing us mercy despite our failings. Even when some people are comparing Nigeria with Venezuela, some are comparing us with Iran, based on economic downturns, based on things going on in those countries. But they can run the comparisons the way they want. But we have something to share up with. At least, if not for anything, things are getting better. But some would disagree and tell you nothing is getting better, it's getting worse. But you have to speak out of faith. You have to speak based on faith, believe, and hope that it will turn for good. You're welcome, everyone.
Absolutely, you are welcome. Let's go to tell you what the front pages of the papers say. Right after that, we get into the conversation proper. On our desk this morning, we have The Guardian, The Punch, Vanguard, and we have This Day newspapers. On the front page of This Day newspaper, attractive returns drive PFA's stock. FGN Securities portfolio to 19.8 trillion naira. Find the story on page 3. And the banner headline here is Southeast APC leaders, elders counter a big factor, rally support for Tinubu. The rider warned against scattering of regions' votes across multiple parties. Interesting on page 5. Relief as FG ASU set to sign fresh agreement on improving university system. January 14. This story is on page 3, and this one here says Chimamanda Adichie breaks silence, blames son's death on negligence. So I had to confirm the date on that paper. But then let's go to the Vanguard, where we see the banner headline being Nigeria's oil gas exploration defies FG's effort, drops 14%. Also, we have the The writer here, NUPRC courts investors with 50 oil blocks on page 19. Economy. Nigeria to record fastest growth in 2026. The World Bank has made that statement on page 19. The writer here upgrades growth forecast to 4.4% for 2026 and 2027. Also on the Vanguard newspaper here, Chimamanda's son, Lagos government, MDC and Pro Bureau Care on page 10. Or church attack. Why they blew off my leg with dynamite. Witness tells court on page 6. Okpeblo orders release of remanded AAU students on page 7, speaking about that protest and how it eventually panned out. Residents flee Sokoto villages as Bello Turji issues new threat on page 9. Some of the riders here: herders kill ex-councillor, 4 others in midnight attack on Benue community. U.S. boosts Nigeria's fight against terrorism with new supplies. And above the nameplate of that paper, Rivers crisis, APC, CSO's others slam Faishe over Fubara's APC status on page 5. The riders here: Tinubu won't sacrifice Wike for Fubara, Faishe. Tony, remember I asked you this question about 2 days ago. Who is going to be more beneficial to Mr. President? And of course, like Faishe heard me, he has also answered from his own perspective. Wike's rainbow collaboration claims misleading. IPAC says opposition parties may adopt Fibara in 2027. How FG states LGA shed 6 trillion naira in 3 months. That's from Nati on page 19. And on the sports column, AFCON 2025, Chile is set to tweak Super Eagles tactical formation against Morocco. Find that on page 31. Now let's go up to the Punch newspaper. The banner headline here is Governor's budget 525 billion naira for security as killing spread on page 2. Security votes jump 40% since 2023. That's the writer on the story. Borno, Anambra, Delta record highest budgets. Northeast, Southeast lead on page 2. Victims identify alleged or church attackers in court. Page 7. Federal roads spending soars for 89% to 3.23 trillion naira on page 29. Above the nameplate of that paper, 2027, ADC faction eyes Jonathan Saraki Makinde alliance on page 7. Counterinsurgency, US delivers military supplies to Nigeria on page 11. Nigeria UAE scrap tariffs and over 13,000 goods on page 19. And the rest of what you'd find here would be advertorials. Now let's go to the Guardian newspaper. The banner headline here is lingering sit-at-home disruption may hurt Southeast's 5.7 trillion naira fiscal plan on page 6. Nigeria UAE signed trade deal, liberalize over 7,000 products on page 4. Nigeria ranks higher, moves up from 103 to 89 in passport index. That's on Panorama page 2. 2027, Enoch laments waning public confidence in elections on page 26. Edo government links Nigerians in diaspora to Ikpoma riot on page 7. Obi Kaigama raised concerns over new tax laws as officials defend reforms. NARG rejects FG NMA job evaluation agreement before collective bargaining on page 4. Shatima Abba, others converse ethical leadership at colloquium on page 3. Lagos gets 179 billion naira. Oil states 424 billion naira from fax 6 trillion naira disbursement. That's on page 3. And those are the stories you'd find on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, and of course, giving you a rundown of all the stories on the front pages of the 4 papers we have on our desk this morning. And so, Tony, we are going to be starting this conversation from home. We are starting with that headline on the Guardian newspaper, which is lingering sit-at-home disruption may hurt Southeast's 5.7 trillion naira fiscal plan. The riders on this story include 1.3 trillion naira IGR projection hangs in balance. Governors dam insecurity, target 300% revenue spike. General perception of insecurity continues. Mondays are more important than any other day for business survival. And so this report says that there are indications and concerns that the nearly 6 trillion naira budget set out by the Southeast governors for this year may be undermined if the continued Monday sit-at-home order in the region is not reversed. Although those who declared that the order to demand the release of the now jailed leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, had long suspended the action, and efforts made by governors of the 5 states to restore full activities and Monday's checks by the Guardian indicated that the unlawful directive has continued until the year. It recalled that the indefinite weekly sit-at-home order in Nigeria's southeast region issued by the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, officially began on August 9, 2021. And Tony, 4 years and 5 months down the line, we are still here. And now the big question is, how far? If IPOB that started this entire thing has come out to say, we are not sanctioning this anymore, and we have had, at least for now, a conclusion on the case of Nnamdi Kanu. The state governors have in the past promised security for lives and property. As much as we've had pockets of would I call it, these elements who hijacked that order to come to force people to stay at home by killing people, destroying their properties, their businesses. We've had pockets of that happen in some places, and some other times we've had security officials fall such plans. Why do you think this sit-at-home still persists?
You ask me, why do I still think the sit-at-home still persists? It's because we are very non-discerning. Discerning in the sense that we are emotional. Southeast is one of the emotional regions in this country that always ride on sentiments and emotions. We've seen times we've been able to go beyond these sentiments and emotion to be who we are. We are created by God to lead. But for one thing or the other, when we are denied that opportunity to lead, there are things we can do to make or break the evens. The sit-at-home, we know very well, started sometime around 2021. That was in August. Nnamdi Kanu was arrested sometime in June, if I can still recollect. And the sit-at-home was first issued by IPOB. They first issued the sit-at-home. But over time, they recalled the order and said that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra had also instructed that the sit-at-home will now be anytime he goes to court, as against every Monday. But they started it. And we have non-state actors who hijacked the sit-at-home order to their own advantage. So it was purely to their own advantage. They used intimidation. They used reign of terror. They used everything possible to enforce that. They maim, they kidnap, they kill just to enforce that. It was solely to their own advantage, not to the advantage of anyone. Because we've seen many of them, these non-state actors, they are kidnappers, they are the unknown governments, and they had cost a lot. So they unleashed terror as far as Southeast is concerned. And Southeast lost the focus, lost the bearing, lost the trajectory.
By Southeast, do you mean the people, the government of the Southeast? Who exactly?
Collectively. When we talk about Southeast, We are not differentiating anyone collectively. I will tell you roles played by different people.
Absolutely.
Government on their own did what they did to reverse the trend. Then we have the non-state actors. We also have those who are sympathetic to the cause. We also have those who are nonchalant, who are neuters, who had this I don't care attitude. Whatever that would be, let it be. Where are we? And we are now gnashing our teeth, groaning, whining, and blaming anybody we can blame. You know, one thing about this life is when you don't admit your mistakes and you shift your mistakes to your adversaries and believe that your adversaries are the cause of whatever is happening to you without also knowing the role you played. Economic wise, it is important that Southeast has lost so much since the beginning of this infamous, disastrous sit-at-home. It's disastrous. Very, very. And for those who think it's famous, it is totally infamous. You want to go to United Kingdom, you want to go to United States of America, develop your own area. We have had this Akunulo philosophy championed even during the Second Republic, during the Third Republic, even from the Fourth Republic. We have seen where we cry, can our people bring their investment home? And can also our people call for foreign investors, those who are not from the Southeast, to come and invest? Because once they invest, government with the right policies, with the right key, things will turn around. Poverty will be dealt with. Household income will be something that will be unimaginable. Economic activities will thrive. And this issue of sit at home, occasioned by these unknown gunmen and non-state actors, frustrated a lot of villages. I know very well in my hometown, Osimo, if not for what happened, I know where we could have been. The last I visited, we saw hotels booming. We saw people bringing agro-allied investment home. We've seen people trying to do one or two things, trying to engage with the local publics in economic way. We've seen activities going on. We've seen outdoor sports event centers springing up. These things stopped. They went comatose. They became something of moribund. We saw the ashes of the ruins. The sit at home brought ruins to the Southeast. And there is a book I'm even planning to write on the damaging effects of this sit at home. The ruins of sit at home. That's the title. The ruins of sit at home. It has very consequential damaging effect. And if you look around, the Southeast has lost quite a lot between 2021, when this infamous, disastrous, disgustfully sit at home began, and 2025.
Who is bearing a bigger burden, Tony?
Everyone. The Southeast has lost estimated 7.6 trillion naira, about 4.8 billion US dollars. That's what we've lost. We've lost an estimated 7.6 trillion naira.
You know why I asked you this, Tony?
In economic activity, anyway.
This report is focusing on what the state government tends to lose. The states tend to lose in terms of revenue expected, and of course, it is supposed to be to work for the people and all of that. But let's not forget that businesses in the Southeast are also suffering, and people here own these businesses. All right. There are people in the Southeast who have suffered a lot of loss because of this. And I mean, by loss, I mean the ones who try to be brave enough to go about their businesses, like the state governments have asked them to. And at the end of the day, counted losses. And so I am curious to find out who is going to be the bigger champion in stopping this sit at home. Give me a second. Okay. I have my reasons for asking. The state government says, go out and go about your businesses. At a point, the Anambra state government even went as far as stopping sporting activities at the Chuba Ikpasu Stadium, if you recall, because the state government says, the state governor said, I have provided security, go about your businesses. And then the people say, you know what, we are resting on Mondays, we go to the stadium to, carry out sporting activities and all of that. And at the point, this facility was closed on Mondays. People said it was done so that people would be encouraged to go about their businesses on Mondays. And so I am curious to find out, have the people become so comfortable with this anomaly? Go to some places in the same southeast, like Enugu, the capital city of Anambra, Oka. Activities are on Mondays. Schools open on Mondays. But you come to Onitsha, for instance, it's like everybody has gotten very comfortable with an extended weekend holiday. And so that's why I asked you, who is supposed to be a bigger stakeholder in breaking this jinx?
We are talking about solution now. I had wanted us to look at the losses together, and then we'll come back to the issue of solution, because solution is why or how to break these genes. And I'm just trying to let you know that look at the transport sector, which the southeast dominate in the entire Nigeria. Transport sector is dominated by southeast. If you look at the players in that transport sector, 80% of them, they are from southeast, but they trade their businesses around the country. Transport operators alone forfeited between about 10 billion and 13 billion per day during sit at home.
Per
day, either flights, and we're talking about Abia, Anambra, Enugu, Imo. And when we talk about this, we look at it from the angles of other effects, other things that could also come out as a result of that. The whole transport sector, the whole parks are not working. Do you know how many parks we have in the entire southeast? Do you know the loads involved? Do you know both the aviation, the haulage system, those who are bringing in their goods from either on airports or from Lagos? Do you know services that could have come from Lagos or from Kano? These things are halted. You can't do anything. So that's also what that sit at home implies. So generally speaking, the 6.6 trillion loss over 4 years, adding to the productivity from lost Mondays back into the economy, could translate into an additional trillions of naira in income, job, tax revenue, and investment. It's when there are burgeoning economic activities, government coming with their own revenue. Government makes money through economic activities outside the oil revenue that comes from time to time. So the point I'm trying to make is this: Southeast has become a shadow of itself. A shadow of itself. And I keep telling our people this. Let's leave the economic aspect of it. Ojukwu saw all these things and declared Biafra. He had the wherewithal, even when we knew that we were not ready. We knew definitely we were not ready when he declared the Biafra. But he did it as a result of the whole oppression meted against the Southeast. Look at the pogrom. Look at the killings. Look at how Southeast was treated. And that he forced the country into a Aburi Accord, but which was not letter obeyed. That is by the way. And remember, who was he then? The entire Southeast Governor General, government being involved, being part. It was government against government during the time of Ojukwu. Government, a sub-national government against the national government. He couldn't get it. With the government imprimatur, with government artilleries, with government components, what Ojukwu couldn't get. He forfeited even his father's wealth. Sir Louis Ojukwu, the first Nigerian billionaire, the wealthiest. I don't want to talk about him. Ojukwu was his son. He couldn't get that. And then after that, you know what he said? He was in exile for almost 13 years in Ivory Coast. He came back. He was reabsorbed. Chewu Chagari, gave him pardon. And then he said, never again, never again. The wars of Ojukwu. Because if you had not been to Freetown or, Poland, the capital of Poland is Warsaw. They saw war. It was born during the Second World War when the Jews were targeted by Adolf Hitler. Let me not be emotional about this. But you could say never again. And now, we reactivated such. You can make agitation, you can make aggressive movement to demand for what belongs to you. But how dare you think that what Ojukwu couldn't get with the entire military, institutional and governmental support of the sub-national government, that somebody will wake up from where and get that. I don't want to blame anybody. It's not time to apportion blame. But we must learn from history. Many of us are not students of history. We are not. And that is why we keep making mistakes. God has blessed us. God has made us different from the rest. God has bequeathed so many things other regions do not have. It is left for us to leverage on those comparative advantage to be who we are and who we would want always to be. We are not looking in that direction. And look at where we are. After the war, Southeast made a comeback in the area of education, in the area of economy, because we had setback for 3 good years. Schools shut, a lot of things shut, nothing happened. Economy was devastated. The Kwashiorkor, remember the Kwashiorkor period, the blockade. Remember lots. Remember so many things. We saw all these things. And now it's not time to go back to some of these things we saw. But we leave it at that. I don't want to talk about people. I don't want to talk about emotion. But the truth remains that we have lost so much. We encourage the state government, coming back to solution you raised. What do? It's a collective tax. It's a collective responsibility. If I were the government, if I were the governor, not just making pronouncements, you match it with legislation. Yes, there are so many markets that have been shouting they don't have democratically elected executives. And these executives must come to work. If government opens the share for this executive to be democratically elected, they must prepare the blueprint on how markets will trade on Monday. We need to start Monday activities. Yes, we remember that our brother is still in incarceration. Yes, we understand that. We understand the prevailing circumstances. We understand everything, but we cannot keep shooting ourselves on the foot over the brother being in incarceration. And he never sanctioned the sit at home we usually have every Monday. He did not sanction that. He has come out public. And some people will be so sympathetic, we're so emotional. See, nobody will give you that. I like engaging people. You must speak from the point of knowledge, from the point of deep research, from the point of what is happening around different countries. There is international politics. There's international politics. If you think anybody's gonna, give you or serve you anything a la carte or do anything, see, the law applies to those who are vulnerable, but those who have what it takes. Look at how Trump went and picked a president, captured him, arrested him. He defied international law. He defied everything. He does not care about the law because he has the power. For him, power supersedes law. If you have got the power to do whatever you would want to do, and nobody will come after you, you have the power to even shed anybody comes after you for anything. Look at what Trump announced yesterday. 25% tariff for any country that transacts anything with Iran. Because Iran is one of their foes. So he wants every country in the world to be a foe to Iran. So you understand how he uses the power, the immeasurable power the country has. But the key thing is, we have done so much wrong. It is time for renewal. It is time for renaissance. It is time for us to speak to our senses. We have lost our senses as people of Southeast. Look at VAT revenue. We contributed 101.8 billion in VAT revenue. How much did we collect? 300 and something. So in entire country, in entire region, Southeast, in 2004, in perspective, contributed least to VAT.
You mean 2024?
2024. We and we took 3 times what we contributed. We will be talking about economic expansion. Without security, no investor will listen to you. No investor listening to investment anywhere where security is not assured. where stability is not assured.
So you're calling on the states to provide
nobody will
security.
commit capital where violence, fear, and force shutdown happen. Nobody. Look at infrastructure in the southeast. Southeast need infrastructural rapid growth, rapid development. The region needs reliable roads, rail links, electricity, water, ports to connect its populous market and industrial clusters. United infrastructure planning as a common economic bloc, not fragmented by state boundaries, can attract investment and reduce costs. Can we also mirror China? Many of our brothers are in China, many of them are in Indonesia, many of them are in Malaysia, many of them trade, they say things there. Why can't we bring some of those things here, happening here? Many companies we trade in these countries that are ready to make investment, that are ready to bring down those things that many of us have to travel over many hours to bring. They are ready to bring it here to start production, to start manufacturing. Can they do it where there is no peace, no stability, insecurity? They can. If they bring those investments, just 1/3 of those things done here, it will be a leverage on their own part. But nobody is ready to commit capital where he's not assured of returns or where his capital is not protected. No one will do that. Look at how exposed we are as a people, how we junkate around the country, how we have shown presence. Presence is not production. Presence is not ownership.
So Tony, what are you suing for now?
We need to, as a people, tell ourselves to the face, this is not where God wants us to be. You can't have certain advantages. You can't have like Messi and Ronaldo playing in Division 5. Southeast can be compared to Messi and Ronaldo's.
So you are saying states in the southeast provide security. Now, what do you say to southeasterners who have become too comfortable with this?
The truth is, you can't be lazy. Laziness takes you nowhere.
Is it really laziness or the fact that they don't trust the government?
It's not about trusting the government.
To have their backs.
We have shown times with that number that we can do mostly without even government. Some of the things we have around the houses, we see in Southeast. It's only region that tar roads provide so many things. Individuals do these things without government involvement, and government comes to commission as a way of PPP. That's the only region that does that. Other regions wait on government to do one thing or the other for them. But Southeast have shown from time to time they can do some of these things. Why can't we leverage on so many things? We are too emotional. We are too sympathetic. We are too sentimental. We are too gullible. We are too vulnerable. These are our problems. We must rise above some of these challenges as a people. See, you can be what you want to be if you wish to be that. What is our vision as a Southeast? What is Southeast project? We have the Southeast Development Commission who has come out and said that, you know what, we need to look at the GDP of Southeast. And if you look around, most times when we speak of these figures, many people will not understand that. But the truth remains that Southeast has a GDP put together about $33.2 billion US. And if you convert that $33.2 US into naira, that will give you something approximately about how many? About 40 something, trillion naira. About 40 something trillion naira. So, but the truth is, we must go beyond that. 46.8 trillion naira, $33 billion as GDP for the entire Southeast, for me, is a no. We must look in some of this. Government has a role to play. Government, I would want this because there's no unity.
By government, you mean coordination among
that's what I'm saying.
There
is no unity. There's no unity. We don't have a regional interest, regional agenda, regional project. Why can't South City State be connected by railway? These governors coming together. Connect Abakaliki, Enugu to Oka by rail line. Why can't they think in short direction? Connect Oka, Imo, Owerri, Umaya by railway. Can they come down and put politics aside, put party affiliations aside, put those things aside and say, you know what, we have been appointed, we have been chosen by God at this point to do something for our people. Can we leave some kind of trademarks in the sands of time? See, I don't know, why are we not thinking in this way? Everybody's concerned about my party affiliation, how to become president, how to become vice president, how to become this, how to become minister, everybody is so much pushed by individualistic interest, and it's killing us as a region. It is really killing us. What are we living for the generation coming on board? We are leaving nothing. We are bequeathing nothing. What we are bequeathing to them is rascality, idiocy. That's what we are bequeathing to them. We are not bequeathing anything meaningful. Look at, if you go around, everywhere is what it is. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years ago, no progress. Yes, I can agree that some Southeast governors are making some infrastructural progress, but the speed is low. That's not where, as people who are naturally entrepreneur, that's what we are known for. Look at, we import, we trade. Can we start production? Can we start manufacturing? Some people will tell you that there's no electricity, there's no this, there's no that. Can the government start looking at some of those things that we help investment? And we are talking about sit at home. Look at where we are. If you go to some of the markets, they are shut on Mondays in 21st century, and some people feel comfortable and tell you they are doing sports, they are doing this, they are doing that, they play music, they lazy around, see, time wait for nobody. That is not where we are supposed to be. Where we are is far off from where we should be. We are meant to lead. We are leaders in nature. By everything, look at Israel. After devastating wars they have had, go to Israel and just see for yourself how things are going on there. That's why they can boast of anything. They are militarily strong, economically strong, and things are moving on well. Even when some countries shut their doors at them, but they can make things happen on their own. See, the point is, we must do something. If just like I wanted to say earlier on, every market has no business, has no reason to shut down. Because before now they were crying of insecurity, provide security. Security for now is a bit or relatively stable. And you keep doing what you are doing. You keep doing laziness. Nigeria has been somehow beneficial. You contributed 1.0 billion or 1.8 billion as VAT, collected 300 and something billion. There's no region that contributed least and contributes and took such. Well, I know some people will say there are some other ingredients you did not look into. Like if you look at Lagos, that contributed almost 54% of the entire VAT because of the port, because of this, because of that. In those port area, who are those paying those VAT? The same Southeast people, the same people. They are the people who have dominated the export and import business. And with those things they have, these things are made possible. Can't we also start thinking about how to open the Oguta Lake port, the dry port? These are some of the things we'll be questioning, and from time to time we must show commitment, we must show strong intent. Can we open our economic lenses and economic apertures that have been shut down over many years? We are still talking about the dry port after how many years? 40 something years. We are still saying one thing. Yes, we believe there is marginalization. Yes, there's no doubt. What kind of politics do we play? If the Southeast governor, some people will say, you know what, that part is in Onitsha. It will benefit the people of Anambra State. It will benefit the entire Southeast, not just Anambra State. It will. But how do these people think whenever they come together? What do they discuss? Our governors, our leaders, our stakeholders, what do they will lie flaunting wealth that we have arrived, we are this, we are that. But look inwards, economic activities, these things are very poor. People are living in poverty. Many people have not been lifted out of poverty. If you go back to different households, they cannot pay this, they cannot pay that, they will blame. We must stop apportioning blame and do things we are supposed to do first.
Absolutely. My mother would always say that I am hoping that the people of the Southeast would sit back and have a rethink as 2026 has commenced, to realize that if we collectively decide to put an end to the sit-at-home madness, we can actually put an end to it. And for people, Tony, who think that if we put an end to it, it is going to distract, would I say, the government and Nigeria as a whole from the whole Nambe Kano issue. What do you have to say to that?
One man cannot hold down the entire region. And he has not even sanctioned that it should be used as a sacrificial lamb to hold down the development of an entire region. We can, because we know everything about him is purely political, and the way out is political solution. But we can just, because of such quest for political solution, hold ourselves back. And we know the competitions that exist among regions during the First Republic. We know the competitions. Where are we? Many of us are migrating. Many Southeasterners are leaving to Lagos. You come back to Southeast and shout sit at home, and you travel to Lagos and stay in Lagos. You stay in Oyo. You stay in Ogun State. That's where many of us are. When they come back to Southeast, they shout sit at home. Let's sustain it. But you are migrating. You are living in another man's region. What are you doing? You're a hypocrite. You have no good intention for your region. That's why, because if time or if care is not taken, before you know it, many of us will keep migrating. And before you know it, we become refugees in some of these regions. And when they do one thing or the other, we chat marginalization. Can't we come back home and develop our home? Can't we make our home what it will be? Can't we see how other people have been able to make their homes? Nobody will make a home for you. Nobody. No sentiment. In fact, there are some regions that will even want this sit at home to continue. I don't want to call these regions by their names. They want this sit at home to continue, because for them, it will also give them advantage over you in so many things. Of course, you have been knocked down on so many areas politically. Can you also knock yourself down economically, where you have comparative advantage? You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
All right. Speaking about states and collaboration, a report on the Punch newspaper has it that governors have budgeted 525 billion naira for security, although the killings are spreading. That's because states have earmarked the said amount for security votes in related operations between 2023 and 2025, according to an analysis of figures extracted from approved budget documentations. The state's budgets are contained in Open State, a budget IT-backed website that serves as a repository of government budget data. The massive vote intended to bolster security nationwide raises critical concerns about the efficacy of these measures, as citizens remain increasingly vulnerable to the tide of violence. And so, Tony, looking at this figure so quoted, one would be first to ask, are we really getting the security? That's the major question that the average Nigerian is going to be asking. Does it really fund the personnel, the intelligence, the equipment, or is it a mere political optic?
One would say that the text of the blood is in the eating. Yeah. Results decides every claim. Whatever claim anybody makes is seen in the results. If the result does not support your claim becomes inaccurate. Your claim becomes emotionally laden. Your claim becomes even a fraud. If result does not support whatever claim anybody makes, it becomes a fraud in our own balance. So far, we know there is general insecurity in the country. It's not that. Of course, you see what is going on in Edo State, the protest which started as a result of kidnapping, as a result of insecurity. The youth took to the streets and decided to protest against some of the things. We've seen insecurity across different length and breadth. In Ikogi, in Niger, in Nasarawa, these are the north central part of the country. If you go down to the northeast, Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, you can even extend it to Gombe and some other places in that area. Northwest is not also quite different. There is general insecurity in the country, and that is what is holding us back. And I've always tasked our leaders, you know what to do, you know how to get over it. Security, I've always said, insecurity is man-made. It's totally man-made. There is nothing somehow supernatural about insecurity. And everything that is man-made can also be corrected by man. Yes, everything man-made. If it is negative, it also can be corrected by man positively. But we have said many times how to tackle insecurity in the country. But Southeast does not need to wait for the entire country. Especially whenever we shout insecurity, we say, of course, it's everywhere. So our own is not different. Southeast is born leaders. They are born leaders. But they are being denied that leadership position. It's not something, it will come on its own. But even at that, you need to show why you are born leaders. You need to show capacity. You need to show capacity. I have always said, if Anambra State tries to fortify its state now in area of security, it has boundaries with other states in the southeast especially. And you can see crime being committed at that boundary area. And it could also make it look as if the state is not fortified. See, there's no state that is island. There's no state that is an island. Island in the sense that you are isolated, whatever happens in the other state does not affect you. It's not true. You see why there is need to brainstorm together on how to tackle this. Of course, we have certain trust funds in the area of security, and these trust funds are expected to at least help in the area of funding to ensure security in some of the states. But the utilization, the fund itself, and other things. Yes, we know very well that we need state police, which I've advocated over times. We need town police, which I called the other time. We also need local government police. Why we are waiting for these things? Because these things are constitutional matter. There are things we can also do on ourselves.
Two things bother me, Tony. This money, is it enough? And then, the one that is being given, do we spend it well?
One, when you talk about security, it's capital intensive, there's no doubt. Especially in areas or states or country where you have poverty as one of the key
weapons
tools.
fueling insecurity.
Apart from that, yes, poverty, unemployment, and so many things going on in the land. I was listening to the police public relation officer in Port Harcourt, Grace Coco, I don't know if I can get her name very correct. We saw a crime where a young lady posted a girl, her friend, on her status celebrating her birthday. The so-called brother saw the status on WhatsApp and said, "Oh, I like this girl, I would like to have her." Or say, "You know what, let me tell the girl that you like her." What happened? She passed the communication and the exchange number, exchange contacts. What happened? The next thing that happened was the young man started asking the girl, "What will it cost for me to have your night?" The young girl said 200,000, and they negotiated down to 80,000. And the young girl moved from Delta State, I don't know the area in Delta State, to Port Harcourt, to Emuha, to see a boy for what? 80,000 a night. And that was how the girl was used for ritual. And the rest is history. I think the River State Police Command posted it on their official Facebook page. You saw the narrations. Because people these days are not thinking of how to make money. Everybody's looking at short corners. And if you look at comments, people were saying, why would a young girl charge 200,000 per night? Some are saying, because for her, that's the only way to make evens. Because everybody wants to look good, everyone wants to belong, everybody wants this.
Do you think that the society is not a product of what the government has given it? Hear me, Tony. So people want to work, but where do they work? I also understand that the people can take a portion of the blame. A lot of times there are things we can do, especially for this particular demographic that you are talking about, who decide not to do anything. They decide that they call it beauty privileges, a shortcut, would I say a glossy word for prostitution, right? Yeah. That particular demographic exists. But look at the way the country is. And so you tell the youth, go into agriculture, and they go to the farms and they get kidnapped. They have herders invade their farms and make a mess of their hard work. And so at the end of the day, I ask again, people not wanting to work and people not being able to work because of certain things that the government could have fixed are two different things.
See, let me say this in. We are waiting for government to give us the work, to serve us the work. There are things we can do ourselves. Everybody has got potential. That's one thing
I agree.
See,
go to tech. Look at the power issue. Look at the high cost of data. Look at the instability with the network. I don't want to
talk about the areas we know government. What government needs to do is when government comes in, there will be a huge leap. Let me say this. There are things we can do even without government intervention. Government intervention is critical, necessary, important, and when they intervene, it will be a leap, a huge one, a huge leap. It's just like somebody jumping from 100 to 1,000. See, artisanship, people have forgotten it totally. There are people who can braid hair. There are people who can do one thing or the other, who can produce things even without. There are things you can produce without electricity. Nobody's looking into those skills.
People are, Tony.
I'm talking about those who are merchants of these short corners. I'm not talking about those.
Oh no, that demographic, they are not interested.
You know one thing, but the point is, there are things. Food vendor is one of the most thriving businesses in this country, and this time around, it's all about packaging. How do you package it? How do you situate it? How do you position it? You may not need, of course, you may need energy, you may not need electricity. You may need electricity because you may need to do with electric stove. But there are other ways, like LPG.
Preservation.
Of course, there are things, but most importantly, how do we also fund capital? How do we also help people to raise capital to start up this thing?
So
I don't want to talk about this.
Let's not digress.
Because it's mostly digression. The point I'm talking about, their government stimulates economic activity. That's what government does. And we have not seen that over time. We've not seen that from time to time. And government is also failing in those areas. But why government is failing, what are we doing? Do we also fold our arms and say, oh, since government is failing, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just look for the shortcut. The truth remains. We must tell ourselves the truth. We must also be open to ourselves.
In what ways? This is security, Tony.
It's
not like we're allowed to bear arms. The least we can do is to see something and say something.
The truth is, in the area of security, these things do not operate in vacuum. It operates in communities. It operates in localities.
See something, say something.
There are
what
people
else can people
there
do?
are people, apart from information or trying to relate with security officials, and I've said many times, there are a lot of handicaps, there are a lot of challenges we must also resolve. They are not helping because lack of confidence, lack of trust, and those who are also in that agencies. These things are fueling insecurity. You can't bring people to secure you when you don't even trust them. You can't bring any agency to work for you when you don't trust them. If you ask any governor, if you ask any president, they will, before they choose whoever that is their ADC, they will be the one that will decide who becomes the ADC because it's all about their own security. Can anybody give them ADC without them having any knowledge? That is what it is here. Giving us people who we do not know, we do not trust, we don't know how they do their things, and we cannot confidently confide in them. It's a big challenge, and we must break that hurdle going forward. And as there are other things we can do. Security is everyone's business. People have their role. Agencies who are there, they have their role. Technology, of course, have come to stay in area of curbing insecurity. Government has got so much role. Government has the biggest of the roles. Government has the biggest, especially providing necessary infrastructure, necessary instrument to curb insecurity, and also the economic one. You must create and stimulate the economic and make people to stay busy at all times. People should stay busy. Or there are those who would not want to stay busy. The long arm of the government comes after them. See, there are a lot of things not going on. We talk about the security fund. It's too small. It's too small. How much are the security personnel paid? What about their welfare? What about their children? Because they risk their lives. They put their lives in the line. So what comes after them if one thing or the other happens? So the truth remains, we are doing so many things haphazardly, invertedly, and there are many things are not getting right. And I believe if you're not getting things right, you must do some introspection and do some audit, performance audit, and see where these things are. How do you bridge the gaps and see how things turn around? Repeating one thing from time to time, expecting different results, is insanity. That's insanity. And it's not going to work. So there are things we can do for ourselves. As Southeast people, with security by now ought to have been tamed, brought to the barest minimum. You cannot wipe insecurity completely. You cannot wipe criminality completely. There are crimes everywhere in the world, even with those with advanced technologies, but you can bring it down to barest minimum.
All right, Anthony. What happened in Ekboma?
It's everywhere. You asked me what happened in Ekboma. Protests over insecurity, hijacked by some hoodlums, hijacked by non-state actors. And before you know it, maiming, shooting, and so many things. And that's one thing we've seen in this country. Whenever there is protestation, is inalienable right. It's a democratic right. But those in charge to protect the protesters, do they do that? When the protestation started, what did police do? Did the police try to shoot those people if they don't need permission from them? But once they have cited that these people are protesting over this with their placards displayed, they need protection. We sought protection to avoid any body hijacking it. So immediately there was hijack. They started shooting. They started killing people. How many people have died in the whole melee, in the whole Brahara? But the good thing is that those students who have been remanded in prison, of course, the governor has said that they should be released. So we shouldn't have been where we are. It is totally the failing of government, the government of Edo State, and the Nigeria as a country, because Edo State is a sub-national. We have a heightened insecurity that people at point found that they cannot continue to live.
Absolutely.
And they have to do something.
I understand that, Tony. There's been reactions trailing in. The likes of Peter Obi, the likes of Atiku have slammed the government and condemned that arrest. But then I'm curious to find out something. What is the guarantee that the 55 people who we arrested were all students? Because Ndeyi yesterday said there's going to be an investigation, after which the ones who are found to be students will be released and then the rest will be persecuted. And so I am curious to find out again how students got in the mix. Were they a part of the protest, or was it a case of random arrest that happened? We have seen also happen oftentimes in this country when things like what happened at Ikboma happen.
Students got involved because you ask how did they get involved and what you have and all that. The point remains that the incident, let's start from the incident itself, because it underscores the tensions between youth, activism, insecurity, state response in Nigeria. The protests were, for me, legitimate, stemming from kidnappings affecting students. And do you know how many students have been kidnapped? Students have watched their fellow students being kidnapped, being murdered. Students from nowhere started paying ransom and so many things. So that was what actually triggered the protestation, especially from the students. They can't be kidnapped for the fact that they want to study. They are in school, undergoing different studies. They can't come back home safely. They can't go out safely. That was how the whole thing started.
But the report is that the students were not involved. Even the school's management and school's government has come out to say that the students were not involved at all.
It was hijacked. Immediately it was hijacked. The arrest was random.
Oh, okay. So it was a case of random arrest.
It was random.
That's what I wanted us to establish.
The students, they had legitimate right. In fact, their protestation was legitimate, just like I said earlier on. So once the police couldn't protect them, so they started random arrest when the protest turned violent. We saw lynching, arson, maiming, and so many things. And police descended on these people heavily.
A report said the soldier even shot someone. The Onoje's palace was attacked.
That's just that. The point remains that it also highlighted one thing: the overreach when it comes to high-handedness or heavy-handedness in the area of policing. Is an overreach. These things started happening under your watch.